Hello again and welcome. In this one we're going to cover some file handling. So let's just get right into it. Let's go ahead and say handler equals open. Hello. Let's actually just say test. And we're going to give it an R. So the way this open function works is it takes the path of the file and then your open type. Basically, whether you're reading, writing, or appending to the file that you are operating on. Then what we'll do is we'll print handler.read. All right, so let's go ahead and open this. What you'll see is we're getting an error and it says no such file or directory found, test.txt. So what we'll need to do is we'll go ahead and create a new file, call this test.txt. And then in here, we're just going to write hello world, because why not? Let's go back to our other file. Let's go ahead and run it. You'll see it now prints hello world. The way that we're doing this will read literally the entire file. So if we were to go back to here and add a few lines and then say end, and then let's rerun our code, it will print the whole thing because it'll ingest the entire file as one string. And then in this case, we're just printing that out. But let's go ahead and get something a little more useful. Let's say, for example, we want to get just line by line so that we can maybe iterate on some data. Maybe it's a CSV, maybe it's something interesting like that. So let's go ahead and bring this down. And then instead of read, we're going to say read line. And then let's go ahead and run that. You'll see it's going to spit out a list or an array of each line. The /n is a kind of a new line character. Depending on your operating system, you may also see carriage returns, which is /rs. Sorry, these are backslashes, not forward slashes. So you see \n for new line here, \r for carriage return, and in some rare cases, you may actually see both. Awesome. So we can read one line, we can read multiple lines, we can iterate on that, we can go through any kind of an array or whatever we need to do. But let's go ahead and now let's look at writing to our file. So let's go ahead and change our handler to a write case. And what we'll do is we'll do handler.write. And then we're going to say this isn't Kansas anymore. All right, let's go ahead and run our code. We're going to get no output because we're not actually printing anything. But let's go ahead and take a look at our file. And you'll see now we actually have the text in here that we did. Now, the interesting thing with writing is it's a complete rewrite of the file. So you're not going to be adding any data to this file. So if we run it again, you'll see the whole file is this value. We can change this to new line, new line, new line. Hello there. And then let's go ahead and run that, close it, and switch over to our file. You'll see we even have that extra space I added after the new line. So this is pretty straightforward stuff here. But what happens if you want to keep adding data to a file without writing the whole thing multiple times? Then we can use what's known as the append mode. So instead of R for read, W for write, we can set this to A for append. Now with append, we can do something along the lines of this. In fact, we can just rerun this. Let's rerun it 2-3 times. And let's look at our code. You'll see it's actually appending what we wrote here. Now, this is actually how it's supposed to be, because if you look at our string, we don't start it with any new lines or anything. So it just continues right where the last one ended. Boom. Boom. Really straightforward. And if I kept running this, it'd just keep appending to this file. Pretty straightforward. Now let's go ahead and take this and let's do write lines. So just like how we had read and read lines, we also have write lines. So let's go ahead and say lines equals, let's create a list, hello. Each one of these is a new line. All right, and now let's go ahead and say handler dot write lines, and then we're going to pass in our lines right there. Now let's go ahead and run this. Again, we're not going to get any output whatsoever because we are simply running the code. And let's take a look. You'll see here it says, hello, each one of these is a new line. Now, the interesting thing here is this is how it's supposed to be. In a way, write lines doesn't actually create a new line. It instead is multiple writes in one action. So you can pass in larger blocks of data. Now, we can get around this by manually adding this. And then if we run our code, you can take a look. Now the line has broken up. That's not terribly convenient, but that's how it works. It gives you a lot more control because technically each line is just another write operation. So let's go ahead and at the end of each of these, we have not basically closed the file. Each time we run the code, it's opening the file, writing it, and then leaving the file open until I close the command line, which I'm just doing by either pressing a key or by closing that window. What we can do is properly in code, you'd want to close once you're done with an operation. And doing that, we just simply type handler.close and then make sure to denote the function there. And then this is technically closed. You're not going to see any difference in this very simple code, but if you were to open a file and maybe have another script or some kind of a daemon that's also accessing that file, you could run into problems if one doesn't leave the file or doesn't close the file before it's done with its operations. So I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.